In the illustrious words of our co-host, PJ Steven, boy howdy, we back with another live episode of Tap Outs and Touchdowns. It's your guy, Bully Rye, alongside PJ Steven. Oh, there we go, this way, for the wrestling shows. PJ, how's it going, bud?
Oh, I am fantastic. I am so ready to do this live show. I hope everyone's having a great time. Man, when you texted me and you said, you want to do a live show tonight? I said, absolutely. I love talking to all the people and making sure that I'm better than them and I have better opinions. And that's what I'm here to do. And I love it. And I can't wait to get into the show.
No, I'm right there with you. So if you're ever listening to this after the fact, you can always find the live shows on Facebook.com/tapouts and touchdowns, on Twitter at tapouts and TDs, and the YouTube channel for tapouts and touchdowns. Make sure if you're joining us live, you are leaving comments for us so that we can read live on the air. If you are joining us Monday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time, thank you for taking time out of watching Monday Night Raw to come and join us on the live show. I have shared the link with some friends. I've shared the links on the social medias. So make sure you come and join us for this live show, that first one we've done in quite some time, and any that we do in the future. So PJ Steven, you ready to get into this? We got some stuff to get to.
I really am. We've got a lot of great stuff to get to, and I'm stoked. Let's get the current stuff out of the way so we can talk about the things that I want to talk about.
Yeah, let's get right into it here. The opening bell of the show. We're going to talk pro wrestling current events. We had some wrestling take place over the weekend, starting with Impact Wrestling's Slammiversary. I don't know what year Slammiversary they're on, but some big things happened in the show, including Trinity, otherwise known as Naomi from WWE, winning the Knockouts Women's Championship. PJ, there was something that was bigger in your mind. Fill in the audience on the bigger title change that took place at Slammiversary.
Well, it wasn't also the title change, but it was just the fantastic match. Lilo Rush taking on Chris Sabin for the X Division champion, and my man Lilo Rush went over. I'm a huge Lilo Rush fan. I think he's fantastic in the ring. And I was really happy to see that. A little sad Chris Sabin lost it so quick, but I think there was an injury going on there. But I'm happy that Lilo Rush won. All I see a lot when you mention Lilo Rush, the typical wrestling fan, quote unquote, I use that term super loosely, is that he retired a few times and now nobody can take him seriously. And it's like, well, he retired one because he was injured and had a new kid. That would make anyone want to retire and then change their mind and come back. And the other time he retired was for his mental health. And I'm sorry, man, but if you're joking on somebody because they retired or they quit something or they stopped because of their mental health, you're part of the problem. And I think Lilo Rush is fantastic, and he's proved every time he does come back that he belongs in the ring, especially in his New Japan run and this current run. We can't forget his 205 run either. 205 Live wasn't a successful thing, but it was really well done, and I loved it. And I missed it. We were just talking about this. I missed the back in the days before 205 Live, and we had the CWC, the Cruiserweight Classic. Loved it. Anyway, Lilo Rush, a new X Division champion. Trinity, new knockouts, new women. What is it?
Knockouts champion. It's just
not just knockouts champion. Great stuff, but there's more.
Yeah, right? Well, I mean, listen, there's a couple things that happened. First of all, the only title not to change hands at Slammiversary was the World Championship. Alex Shelley retains over Nick Aldis, whose contract supposedly ran up at the end of the pay-per-view. So he is once again a free agent. There were some people that were very hot on social media regarding why would you bring Nick Aldis back just to let him lose to Alex Shelley? Well, he's not under contract, so you're not going to pull a Bret Hart and leave the title on somebody who's leaving the company. But I digress. We also
It's crazy to me how much fans really forget that winning and losing doesn't matter in a fixed sport.
Yeah. Now, listen, I'm right there with you. We got a couple of viewers on Facebook and YouTube. Make sure you're leaving comments for us to read on the air. And we get the first one in. Volley Polly coming in, wishing us a good evening. Hello, Volley Polly. Thanks for joining us tonight. Like I said, all but one title changed hands at Slammiversary. But we also saw the return of one Eric Young. Who's been out for a while. There was a storyline that played out where Eric Young was murdered. So
I forgot about that. Yeah.
When you talk Impact Wrestling, you really see some outlandish storylines, and that was one of them. But all in all, a pretty good event for a company who has struggled since their early days, run by Jeff and Jerry Jarrett. But some good stuff to watch if you missed it. Shout out to your wife for watching the show with us live, as she's leaving us a like reaction on social media. Let's move on from Impact and let's move over to AEW. Over the weekend, there was Battle of the Belts after AEW Collision, but we also saw the tournament finals for the Owen Hart Foundation tournament that featured two new Owen Hart Foundation tournament champions, and Ricky Starks and Willow Nightingale. Ricky Starks going up against CM Punk. Willow Nightingale, remind me who she was taking on in the finals in that match, because I don't.
Ruby Soho.
Ruby Soho, that's it. So I think they got it right with Willow Nightingale. I'm not sure if they got it right with Ricky Starks.
Oh, they definitely got it right with Ricky Starks. Ricky Starks, I think he's a star.
Yeah, I don't think they needed to put it on Punk, but okay. I also don't think Punk should have gone over on Samoa Joe.
I agree with that.
So if you missed the tournament finals, Ricky Starks goes for a pin on CM Punk and holds onto the ropes, and he's presented the trophy by none other than one of your true favorites. Jushin Thunder Liger is there to give the trophy, and Ricky Starks sort of big boys him, and kind of runs to the back room, never gets his title. PJ, your thoughts on the Owen Hart Foundation tournament? Do you think it's I don't want to say a waste of time. Do you think it's useful for AEW to use this tournament?
Yes, absolutely. I think it's fun. I think a lot of the wrestling fans are happy that somehow Owen Hart is involved. I mean, he's involved, not involved, you know what I mean? He's mentioned more in AEW than he is in WWE. I mean, you got to give that credit. I think it's great.
WWE can't mention him. Like it was part of the settlement. Shout out Tyler Roberts watching the show with us as well.
Though. I mean, you can't mention it. So it's like, what? I mean, might as well. I mean, I think we get so caught up in versus that and I mean promotion versus promotion, that we just can't be happy for, well, you know what? One of the greatest wrestlers that passed away way too soon is being mentioned somewhere. I almost cursed there. Somewhere. So we can't just be happy for that. We got to be upset that, well, why isn't WWE doing it? So I think it's great that he's being honored in this tournament. I think it's fun.
Again, if you're watching on social media live with us, make sure you leave some comments so we'll read them here on the air. I'm not sure if I would call it bigger news, but after the match was over, you saw CM Punk approach somebody in the crowd and give him a hug in the front row after being, flipped the bird by the guy sitting next to him. CM Punk would approach the son of Chris Benoit. David Chris Benoit was in attendance for this show. PJ,
is this middle name Chris?
Yes, because in years past, when they talked about him wanting to get into wrestling, he wanted to go in as Chris Benoit Jr., and they couldn't come after it because his legal middle name is Christopher. So thoughts on this, man? Like, this is, I don't want to say it's a big deal, but it's kind of a big deal.
I think it's great. Sins of the father. Everyone's gonna judge this kid for, well, he's probably an adult now. He's a
adult. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, they're going to judge this guy based on what his father did. You're going to get that because wrestling fans are horrible. But I think it's great. It's super fun, and it's kind of eerie because if you remember who was supposed to be taken out. Yeah, you already know what I'm going to hit you with.
Yeah.
I'm not going to waste the breath.
Waste the breath. Let the audience know.
Yeah. CM Punk was supposed to work Chris Benoit that match or that night when before
for the ECW championship.
The ECW champion. So anyway, there you go. But still, I think it's great. He's getting a little shine there. You never know. We might see Benoit in AEW.
Tyler Roberts bringing some knowledge here. This is also the anniversary of that weekend that Punk was supposed to face Chris Benoit at the ECW event all those years ago.
Tyler, comment on how Tony Atlas wanted to make out with you. No, that brings up a good point. It just makes me believe that we're all in a simulation. And that is kind of eerie. That really makes you think. Wow.
Well, let's move on from AEW and talk some WWE for a second. We saw at
Do we
Money in the
have to?
Bank. Yes, we do.
Okay.
This is a wrestling show. We're going to get all WWF 1997 in the main event here in a second. But we saw at Money in the Bank. We talked about it on the show that Jey Uso is the first person to have given Roman Reigns a pinfall loss since pre-pandemic. So that begs the question, because I have talked to a few other people and I have been on a couple of other shows. And the debate question continues to get brought up. Who will be the person to dethrone Roman Reigns and take the undisputed WWE Universal Championship? So I pose you the question, PJ. Who's the guy to do it?
If they had the balls to do it, it would be Jey Uso.
It's so funny.
And then Roman kind of goes off in the ether, and then we get a rivalry between Solo and Jey, and then maybe that leads to Jimmy and Jey. I mean, we could make all that happen, but they don't have the ball. I don't think they have the balls to put it on Jey.
I was on a show called Out of Pocket with Michael Davis, the co-host of my Carolina Panthers podcast, and he sort of, I believe somebody on that show said the same thing, that they think it's Jey Uso.
I would love it to be Jey Uso.
I'm with you, though. I don't think they're going to pull the trigger on and let it be Jey Uso. I still think that it's going to be Cody Rhodes. I still think it's going to be Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania 2024.
Adrenaline in my soul. Everything is under control.
Either that or at Royal Rumble, Cody Rhodes will be WWE champion after WrestleMania 2024. If we keep getting the Rock versus Roman Reigns, the rumor, way out in the, I don't know if you call it in the universe, the social media universe. I don't see it happening. I don't think the Rock is ever going to be. I don't either. Like, listen,
I know we talked about this on the podcast. It might have been Out of Pocket. That like I feel like I'm in the minority because Desmond was there too. Yeah. I feel like I'm in the minority because I don't want to see. I don't want to see that match. I don't care.
Holding back tonight.
Yeah, I was holding back so hard. I don't care about Reigns and Rock. I really don't. And I get why people do, but I don't. If I don't have to see that match, I'll be fine.
Okay, so hypothetical, if it's not Jey Uso, then who is the person to dethrone Roman Reigns? Who would you like to see be the person to dethrone Roman Reigns?
I could see Cody Rhodes doing it. I don't think that's incorrect. I think I could see Cody doing it.
I'm gonna throw a name at you that you'll probably like to hear. What about Gunther?
Yeah,
Look at this.
I was gonna say
we're on the same wavelength tonight.
I could say Gunther. I literally went, yeah, Gunther. I could see Gunther.
What about LA Knight?
Let him hold the Intercontinental and the World Heavyweight, just like Ultimate Warrior, except a better wrestler.
Yeah, that's fair. What about LA Knight? That's a real question.
I know. Our last podcast, I talked about how I don't think LA Knight could be the guy. And I don't watch it live anymore. I'm always working, or I just don't have cable, or I just I'm doing other things, or New Japan's on, which to me is more important. But I've been watching a lot more of LA Knight's matches and his segments and him coming out. Let me talk to you, that kind of stuff. I see now where you're coming from. I still don't think he'll be the guy, but he'll definitely be a top player, and I could see him taking the belt. On the flip side, I don't think he needs a belt. He doesn't need a prop, because that's what belts are. Belts are props.
So if not the Universal title or the World title, you don't think he would benefit from being a U.S. champion or an Intercontinental champion?
Anyone could benefit from a prop, but it's not that they need it.
I mean, that's a fair point. Listen, we got a lot.
But I'm with you. If he wins it, I'm not gonna. That's terrible. But
well, listen, we got a lot to get to in your time machine segment here. Break it down. But one more question before we take a commercial break here. Are we currently in the new golden age of pro wrestling? We have pro wrestling on 6 to 7 days a week. We've got really 3 or 4 companies that are putting stuff on in the US. We've got WWE, AEW. If you want to consider Ring of Honor one, but I'm considering Ring of Honor under that umbrella of AEW. You've got New Japan that comes on Thursday nights, Impact Wrestling, NXT. Real quick before we move on, Volley Polly thought that was wondering if Damian Priest holds on to the briefcase until the next draft. I think the draft happens after the expiration of that cash in or that Money in the Bank.
I could see that and cash in on Roman. I could totally see that.
Yeah. Nevertheless, a lot of wrestling going on right now. A lot of really good wrestling, even Impact Wrestling that's sort of now seen as like the true indie that has a TV contract. They just put on a great show this past weekend. PJ, are we living in the next golden age of pro wrestling?
Absolutely. And we are terrible fans because we take it for granted and we just insult each other. And it's insane. And I said this the other day. If this was, back in the Monday, and we're going to talk a lot about Monday Night Wars when we get into the 97, but back in the day in the midnight, when the Monday Night Wars are really kicking, and it was, 96, 97, 98 kind of thing, I couldn't imagine, and maybe it happened and I was oblivious to it. I couldn't imagine acting the way that some fans act now. I mean, if I acted that way in that time, I would go back and kick my ass. I mean, it makes, we're so pathetic. And, well, I can't, it's like when and you can identify with this. It's like when a football player changes teams. And it's like, well, I used to love him and now I hate him. Why? Because he's got a different shirt. He's wearing a different shirt. He's wearing a different shirt. And you don't like him? So when a wrestler goes from one company to another, leaves a job and goes to another job, well, he's nothing now. Well, because he changed companies, he changed jobs. That's crazy to me.
So we talk about how fickle fans are these days. And it's not necessarily untrue, but the difference between the fans today and the fans, let's say back in the 70s and 80s, is that the fans today have social media that they can run to, and they can boast their chest out. They can poke their chest out and say all they want. Back in the 70s and 80s, they just stabbed guys. Like Roddy Piper was infamously stabbed by a fan, and from that point on, carried a gun. There was a story told on the It's Always Sunny podcast when they were talking about the wrestling episode, and they said that Roddy Piper showed Rob McElhenney the pistol that he kept in his jacket, and said that he carried a pistol everywhere he went in that jacket ever since he got stabbed. So anytime, and that was the jacket that he wore everywhere. Every time he wore that jacket, he had that pistol on him. So on TV, unbeknownst to us, he had that pistol on him because of the time he got stabbed by a fan. It's been infamously said when the Four Horsemen broke Dusty Rhodes' leg that Arn Anderson said, we didn't think we were getting out of that arena alive.
Oh, yeah.
Volley Polly said you made a good point. I'm not sure where it was, but he's
all my points are good. Thank you, Polly.
Listen,
thank you.
I'm with you, PJ. This is a golden age of wrestling, and instead of getting to enjoy it like the fans did in previous times, even the Attitude Era, where people were like, I watch WWF, I don't watch WCW, or vice versa, it still wasn't as toxic because there wasn't social media involved.
I agree. The social media just thing. And my thing is too, it's and I've said this 1,000 times again, definitely a broken record. I don't watch bad pro wrestling. I like all pro wrestling. If I'm watching it, it's probably good. I watch the AEW, I watch the WWE, I watch New Japan, I'll watch AWA, I'll watch Impact. I'll watch it.
PJ, before we take our break, we do have a question that it'll get answered later in the show. Chris Massey wants to know if you have done your G1 predictions yet.
Boy, howdy, have I. I have done my predictions on who I think is going to go over the whole thing and who I think is going to be in your top 4. Would you like to hear it? Well, I'll do it at the end.
Let's tease it. In the radio business, they call that a tease because in the tonight's curtain call, we're going to talk the G1 Climax tournament from the first weekend, and we'll let PJ give his predictions going forward on that. For real quick, before we move on,
I will give you a hint. 2 of my picks have 0 points right now. So But
Well,
yeah, I've seen him. I've seen it go. You lose your first 3 matches, and then you win everything else, and then you win. So I mean, that's what I love about the G1. Anyway,
PJ never claimed to be a Paul Heyman. He's not giving spoilers. He's giving out predictions.
let me give you a spoiler here.
So I hope y'all enjoyed the opening bell, but we're gonna call out one of our sponsors here before we get into break it down, and we're gonna talk Carolina Business Equipment. This episode is brought to you by Carolina Business Equipment, with offices in Charleston, Greenville, Columbia, and Florence. Carolina Business Equipment can supply your copiers, computers, and printers anywhere in the state of South Carolina. Call my best friend Aaron Thompson, 843-452-8761 for a quote today. And make sure that you tell him Ryan from Tap Outs and Touchdowns sent you. Carolina Business Equipment, you worry about your business. Let us handle your technology. I think I got through that read pretty good.
That was pretty good. We need that in New Mexico. Aaron Thompson, get a 505 area code, come out to New Mexico, and we'll do it.
Listen, if he makes a sale in New Mexico, I want commission off of that because I'm
the one in New Mexico.
Yeah, but listen.
By the way, hey guys, I'm coming from you live for the first time in New Mexico.
Yeah, everybody. PJ
I got that set up finally.
PJ's. Oh yeah, he's got his wrestling stuff set up. So PJ's still getting acclimated out west here.
That's like 2%.
Well, we got a special treat for tonight on Break It Down. We are doing part 1 of PJ's Time Machine series. We're going to be discussing the WWF, as it was known back from 1997. There was 1997 was sort of like part of the glory days for WWE. It was still I wouldn't say pre Austin 316, but it was right before the real peak of Austin 316. You still had it was pre DX. Really, it was pre Heart Foundation, and it was right around that time where WWE was competing with the likes of WCW in their NWO era start. PJ, I'm gonna let you get us started here. WWF 1997. I know you wanted to do some sort of precursors here before we get into some big events. Tonight, we're going to go through about 3 months or so. The first 3 months of 1997, it kind of hit some highlights. And if you've got any thoughts about WWE during this time, please drop them in the comments, either on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. We'll read them on the air. PJ, why don't you get us started here with WWF 1997?
All right. Well, this is definitely my favorite time in pro wrestling, between what was going on in WCW in 97 and then what was going on here. We were really hot into pro wrestling itself was very hot, between what was going on in New Japan, All Japan, and of course, your big leagues, WCW and WWF at the time. Fantastic stuff. This is also the time that I can remember really getting into my peak of this is what I want to study and enjoy and watch probably until I die. And Roman Reigns will still be a champion when I die. But what we're going to do is we're literally going to do several parts of this series. This is obviously part 1. We're going to go all the way from January all the way down. We're going to actually go in a little bit to 98, because we're also going to talk about WrestleMania 14, when the Austin era has begun. Guys, put in your comments, what is your favorite time? What is your favorite highlight moment of 1997? I guarantee we're going to talk about it somewhere in this series. But let's get started. I do want to mention one of the first things that I saw when I looked up. I did a lot of research for this. I've been doing research for this particular series for the past, 6-7 months, maybe. It's been a long time. And one of the first things I looked up when it was like important wrestling moments in 97, ironically, was this: January 4th, 97, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Wrestling World 97, which would later become Wrestle Kingdom, because Wrestle Kingdom was always January 4th. And I had forgotten that Jushin Thunder Liger took on Ultimo Dragon at that event, and I went back and watched that match. Anyway, guys, go watch that match. It's fantastic. But first, listen to what we have to say about WWF 1997. We're going to get started real quick with the big highlight, and that is, of course, January 21st, 1997. That's the Royal Rumble. Everyone looks forward to the Royal Rumble. And around this time, a lot of big names were popping up at the time. You had your champion, Shawn Michaels, of course, who had just defeated Bret Hart that year prior at WrestleMania.
WrestleMania 12.
Yeah, WrestleMania 12. Yeah, that was the Iron. Yeah, that was the Iron Man, right? Yeah,
Yep, I believe so.
Yeah. So big names here in this Royal Rumble. You've got Bret Hart, of course. You've got Stone Cold, who is still. We're still getting that rivalry, but it really now picks up in the Royal Rumble, which is great. We're going to start off Triple H taking on Goldust for the Intercontinental Champion. Great match. That was a rivalry that was going on. You saw a lot of China and Marlena going at it, which we don't see that until the to the European tour that comes in a couple of weeks, where China's debut pulls Marlena over the guardrail. We'll talk about that. Ahmed Johnson is in a heated rivalry with Farouk. You're shaking your head.
Listen, Ahmed Johnson was over. All right,
he was over.
He thought he was going to be, in his words, the Black Stone Cold.
Yeah. Yep.
And
what happened?
If you go back and look at his matches, he wasn't that good.
No.
Listen, a lot of people hate on Goldberg and say that Goldberg was a terrible wrestler, or maybe he was, but he got over. So the same can be said for Ahmed Johnson, and now he's bigger than I am. Obviously, he was always bigger than I was. But dude obviously had some medical issues and stuff, but I think his biggest issue was his ego. And nevertheless, like, listen, he was over. That's about all I can say about him.
We're going to talk about somebody else later on who was super over that I forgot was so over. We're going to get to him later. But Ahmed Johnson defeats Farouk in a DQ. Farouk at this time is coming. I had forgotten about this, but the Nation of Domination had those two guys that was rapping for them when they would come out. And it was the lamest thing I've ever seen.
It felt like an off-brand like Wish.com run DMC.
I was like, man, I don't remember Farouk having that big posse.
Oh, I do. Absolutely.
I only remembered the four, and then it started clicking in, and then of course we're gonna get in later on down the road about disciples. Disciple. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say you don't the four. Are you talking about like the Kama Mustafa, Mark Henry, The Rock? Or are you talking about Farouk, Savio Vega, and Crush?
No, well that's three, but I was talking about like Farouk, D'Lo, Mark, and
okay. So you almost forgot. You sort of forgot about the original incarnation of the Nation with
which
Farouk,
was Crush and
Clarence Mason, Crush, Savio Vega. Oh yeah.
Well, I had forgotten about it at the time because, and I wrote these down. I mean, I've got a giant book here. I wrote this down in time. So when I was watching it, I was like, so, and then I had forgotten, of course. Then we get DOA, then we get Savio Vega's group and all that. And I had forgotten this as well on that Royal Rumble pay-per-view. Vader defeats Taker. Vader defeated Taker. Now, I'm a big Van Vader fan. I think that he's still the greatest big man in pro wrestling history. Agreed. No one can tell me any different. But man, how bad was Vader's run here in WWF? Do you think it was because of the Shawn Michaels incident, or do you think that you think it was? I think 100%. It's a combination. I think it's a combination of that, and Vader just wasn't. He was not Leon.
Listen, I think had it not been for that match with Shawn Michaels, that infamously like went off script. The argument that took place in the back, we covered that show here on Tap Outs and Touchdowns. So had it not been for that match, I think Vader was set up to get a world title in WWE at some point.
I do too.
I mean, listen, The Undertaker was the most loyal company man WWE had.
Yes.
Throughout all of the 90s. Like, he was like Sting was the WCW, The Undertaker was the WWE, and that's one of the reasons why everybody wanted to see them face each other at a WrestleMania event. So the fact that Taker would eat a loss to Vader should tell you where the company felt about Vader and his potential. Now, granted, The Undertaker at one point lost to Rey Mysterio. He lost to other guys too, but listen, Vader's run was a disappointment only because he never won a title. That's, to me, that's all it was. And infamously, I think it was In Your House where he lost to Kane. And I think it was the last time we ever saw him in WWE. he cut that promo where said he was a big fat piece of crap,
Yeah.
and he didn't use crap, but I digress. We never really saw him again, but yeah, I mean it's good stuff here. I love Vader in WWE. He had better theme music in WWE than the other companies that he wrestled in. So
It's time.
yeah. Oh, it starts off this show. If you ever listen to the opening of this show, it's always that Vader. It's Vader time to lead in the show. So it's
Well, let's
great
move
stuff.
on here to what we're here to talk about, and that is the Royal Rumble. Stone Cold. I'm gonna name the names in this Royal Rumble. I mean, this is a
Who's
I mean,
who?
this is a who's who. It really, really is. Crush starts it off. Ahmed Johnson, Razor Ramon, right there. Razor Ramon, 97. But we know who it is. It's not really Razor Ramon. It's Kane. That's
No,
got to be Kane.
Kane was Diesel.
Kane was Diesel. That's right. Razor Ramon. God, I forgot the fake Razor. It was
it doesn't matter. He wasn't memorable anyway.
Yeah, it was like Richard something. I can't remember. Anyway,
and Glenn Jacobs did a decent job of playing Diesel, if we're going to be honest.
Yeah, he was a better dentist. All right, Phineas Godwin comes in at number 4. Stone Cold Steve Austin number 5. One of what that guy did. Bart Gunn number 6. Jake Roberts, British Bulldog. Perry Oath. Forgot who that was. The Sultan. Oh, everyone knows the Sultan.
If you don't know the Sultan, tell everybody who the Sultan is.
The Sultan is Rikishi.
Yes.
The
Sultan was Rikishi in a mask.
Yeah, pretty
Fantastic.
Yeah. We have Mil Mascaras coming out, which was insane, and he eliminated himself, which, okay. Triple H, Owen Hart, Goldust, Cybernetico, which everyone knows who that is. It's Cyber the Main Man is what he debuted as. Mark Marrow, Latin Lover. Everyone knows who Latin Lover is, of course.
Mark Marrow was the that was what? Mark Marrow in a mask?
No. Mark Marrow came out.
Oh, Mark Marrow's the next guy. Okay.
Yeah,
I thought you were okay. Sorry.
That did sound. Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute, hold on.
Farouk Savio Vega, Jesse James, Bret Hart, Jerry Lawler, who was eliminated immediately by Bret Hart, Diesel eliminated by Bret Hart as well. Terry Funk comes out, Rocky Maivia, Mankind, Flash Funk, Vader, Henry O. Godwin, and number 30 is Undertaker. Now, this Rumble was special because Bret Hart won the Rumble. But did he really? Because Stone Cold Steve Austin slipped underneath because nobody paid attention. He came back under the ropes and eliminated Bret Hart. That's what the refs saw. And your Royal Rumble winner, 1997, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Man,
how about that?
So, what moment do you think was bigger for Stone Cold, winning the Rumble or winning the King of the Ring?
Oh, King of the Ring.
Okay.
So, because if Triple H doesn't participate in the curtain call, we never get Stone Cold Steve Austin winning King of the Ring.
I agree with you. Just
we never get Austin 316. We never get the push that he gets. And so, especially because this, spoiler alert, this Royal Rumble win didn't lead to him main eventing WrestleMania.
Correct.
For a championship match. So, as big as his moment was because eventually Stone Cold Steve Austin became a 3-time Royal Rumble winner.
Yeah.
This is probably the least memorable of the 3. So, but nevertheless, it was a big event. Like the way he was eliminated and then the way that he won, it played a huge part in the rivalry where we'd see the double turn 2 months' time from this pay-per-view.
Oh yeah, we'll get there.
Yep.
I will say that I like this. I think it is memorable because not only does he last 45 minutes in the match, but he ties with Hulk Hogan with most eliminations. I think that's fun. Let's move on to the main event. We got our WWF title match here. Shawn Michaels taking on and defeating Psycho Sid, who was your champion. Shawn Michaels is now your new champion. Love it. Wonderful. I forgot how over Psycho Sid was.
Mm-hmm.
He was, and you know what? I can't remember why. But he was so over. He was great.
I think it was just he sort of had those nonsensical promos like Ultimate Warrior did.
Yeah.
But he had a really good choke slam and a really good power bomb, and people like to see power moves back then. For Goldberg, it was the spear and the jackhammer. For the Undertaker, it was a tombstone, some sort of big move like a choke slam and a power bomb. And the fact that like at one point, because I think Shawn was a baby face and he was a heel, and whatever it was, it's again, Ahmed Johnson was over during this period of time.
I guess you're right.
So
I think I shared this in our chat when this happened, but there's a promo where Hart is like just cursing out Psycho Sid, and Psycho Sid comes to the ring and he's like, "I don't know shit," and it's so funny.
Yeah,
it's just ridiculous. Anyway, so Psycho Sid defeats Shawn Michaels last year at Survivor Series. Of course, Shawn Michaels getting it back here at the Royal Rumble. So we're starting off the year. Shawn Michaels is your new champion starting off January. Let's move on. That was the Royal Rumble in a nutshell. January 25th, 97, there's a Madison Square Garden house show. That was a big deal. After that, Raw, January 31st, 97, in Toronto, we're going to see Triple H defeating Mark Marrow for the Intercontinental title. Triple H's Intercontinental reign here was really well done, and I think it touches a lot towards his character when we start getting into DX. Also, Taker and Ahmed are going to beat Mankind and Farouk in a no holds barred. That's a really good match. As far as that too, that took place in Toronto, which is great. We're gonna move on to Raw. Also, I had to mention this. Shawn Michaels defeats Bret Hart and Psycho Sid in a triple threat match to retain the title. The match was really, really bad. You don't want to see that. It's not very good.
It's good to know.
It is good to know, I suppose. We're gonna move on
Real quick, Volley Polly put a comment in the chat. We'll get to it because he's getting a little ahead of us, but nevertheless, we're getting right to what he wanted to comment about. So BJ, let's move on here.
Well, this is a big deal. This particular Raw. This is a Thursday Raw. Thursday, February 13th, 1997. We're gonna see the infamous Shawn Michaels loses his smile.
Yep,
that's a real sentence.
Volley Polly actually commented right before we got here that Psycho Sid was over when Shawn lost his smile, and the fans actually started chanting Psycho Sid on that Raw, so they weren't having Shawn Michaels losing his smile in the show. So good contribution, Volley Polly.
Very much so.
A shout out to Jason Yenny for coming in and coming into the show. Good stuff here. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, PJ. Let's keep rolling.
I love hearing from it. This also is a very important Raw because The Rock defeats Hunter Hearst Helmsley to win the Intercontinental title. That's a fantastic match, and that's also a big step forward into a great rivalry that we'll talk about, way down the road. But The Rock and Stone Cold, that is that not? I mean, you can argue Bret Hart, but go ahead.
Was this The Rock's first title win? This Intercontinental Championship over Triple H or Hayden? Okay, that's so. Yes. It is pretty significant that this was The Rock's first ever singles title in WWE. So good stuff.
We're still getting Rocky Die chants during this too, which is crazy.
Yeah, absolutely nuts.
Why do you think that is? Was he just too blue collar?
Honestly, it probably, looking back on it, and it's hard to say without being in that moment, but we were pushed. We were force fed Roman Reigns for a very long time before he left, pre-pandemic or mid-pandemic. Remember, he was supposed to main event at WrestleMania that year.
Correct.
And because he was battled with leukemia, he was immune compromised. He would go away and then infamously come back and win the title and never lose it as a heel. So
yeah,
we were force fed, and I'm getting there. We were force fed Roman Reigns so hard that the fans despised Roman Reigns. The only people that liked Roman Reigns were the same kids who grew up loving John Cena. Those same adults who will show up when John Cena is advertised on a card in jorts and Cena shirts and wristbands because it was who they loved as a kid. So people loved Roman Reigns as a kid, and
then they grew up.
It was force fed. So Rocky Maivia, obviously, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, had the skills, had the charisma to be a star. But his gimmick wasn't genuine. His gimmick was being force-fed. he's a third generation superstar. He's a blue chip. I mean, infamously a blue chip guy here, blue chip guy when
Blue chipper right there. Yeah.
yeah, when he debuted in Survivor Series. So I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that this is a time when wrestling was getting edgier with the New World Order over in WCW. Rocky Maivia wasn't Edge. Stone Cold Steve Austin was. Eventually, Shawn Michaels would become Edge. Edgy Bret Hart would get edgy. I know that sounds really dumb, but like he went on
cutting his un-American promos. I mean,
well, not only his un-American promos, there was a time when he was, I believe he lost a cage match to Psycho Sid on a Monday Night Raw, and he laid into
all right, hold on now. We're getting there.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, so it was just, there was edge, and Rocky Maivia didn't have that edge the fans wanted. And so they turned. They didn't want the eat your vitamins and say your prayers from the 80s. They were ready for something that felt more real. And I think that's ultimately why Rocky Maivia didn't get over until he became The Rock.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about this promo here. I'm not going to read everything because it's very long, but basically we have Vince McMahon bringing out the most flamboyant, most charismatic WWF champion perhaps of all time here, ladies and gentlemen, to surrender the World Wrestling Federation Championship. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Shawn Michaels. We get a long promo about Shawn Michaels just basically saying that, the business is taking a toll on his body. I want to quote a little bit here, a couple of them. It seems like we've done this before, and this time, unfortunately for me, it's much serious than last time. I never had a doctor look me in the face and say that I may never be able to wrestle again, and I was told that the other day. Of course, it's not something I believe, but the fact is something that I have to deal with. Time has taken its toll on my body. I want to pause right there. Is he injured here, or does he not want to drop the belt to Bret Hart?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I don't think he's injured. I think this was infamously when he was dealing with drug issues. It was it's very, very well documented that Shawn Michaels dealt with substance abuse, and
he was on painkillers, and
yeah. So I know he said his body failed him, but it was because his body failed him because he was doing all the drugs and going out and partying and stuff like that. So I don't think he was I don't think he was injured. I think he was probably physically exhausted. And I don't think that the bad blood with him and Bret Hart. Well, I mean,
yeah, it was there.
It was there, but I don't think it was a ploy not to drop the title to Bret.
Well, let's move on a little bit more. And so another quote here. I wanted to enjoy my life as the WWF champion. I wanted to ride in Lear jets and ride in limousines. I wanted to be on TV shows. I wanted to do autograph sessions, and I got to do every bit of that. If nothing else, I have all that to take with me. Again, and I know right now we're in the middle of a time where toughness is a real big here in the World Wrestling Federation. And unfortunately, all I've got right now for you is a lot of sorrow, a lot of tears, and a lot of emotion. I don't have any toughness for anybody. So I guess here you go. Here's your belt. Is this a work?
Yeah.
Are we working here?
It might be a work shoot. Like it might be like there's a lot of promos during this time frame that were promos that were shoots or that were works were rooted in some sort of reality. I mean, it was infamously the Shawn Michaels and the Sunny Day promo talking about Bret Hart, insinuating that Bret Hart and Sunny had a relationship, despite the fact that Sunny was sleeping with everybody back then,
including somehow Dolph Ziggler.
No, she hooked up with Dolph Ziggler much later in life. Like this is like I don't know how to. I could go on. Maybe we need to do a Sunny episode.
You think both? No, we don't. You think both? No. You think both the Legion of Doom destroyed her?
No.
You don't think so?
Maybe Hawk did. I don't. I like to think that James Laurinaitis was a little more loyal in his relationship during that time frame.
He didn't have any Sunny. So
listen. In fairness, I don't think that was Sunny's type. She didn't like the big bulky dude. She liked liked any man that would look at her. Tyler Roberts like my comment. LOL. Maybe Hawk did. So, yeah, I don't know.
Let's keep
Nevertheless,
going here.
it's. I think it was a work shoot. I think there was some reality to it. To go back to.
I got one more quote I want to throw at you. And last year was the most wonderful year of my life. And if I never get to do it again, it'll be okay because I got to live one full year as being the number one guy in this business. And it was the single greatest year of my life. And I have to thank, and I have everyone here to thank. And it means a lot to me. And I'm going to go home now, okay? Shawn leaves. Ladies and gentlemen, Shawn Michaels, says Vince McMahon, and Shawn leaves. Watching this back, was there a part of you watching this at the time that you thought, whoa, Shawn Michaels just retired?
No. Listen, first of all, I was too young to think about it. I mean, I was 10 years old, almost 10 years old when this happened.
Based on what I just read, could you think
Yeah,
that somebody would think that, oh, Shawn Michaels just retired?
potentially, yes. I don't want to say like it's a foregone conclusion that it was happening, but it was definitely something like we didn't see, even at this time period, we didn't see someone just relinquish the world title.
I think it's happened more as the years gone by. You know, Edge, Finn Balor,
Daniel Bryan.
Daniel Bryan. Oh, that hurt.
Yep. So I mean, listen, one could draw the conclusion that maybe he was retiring, but in that time frame, I don't think it was something that people were thinking about because guys didn't retire from injury that young. I mean, the most famous story was Magnum TA, where
God,
he
they were
was
building him up to be the next Hogan.
and he was going to be had it not been for that car wreck. So no, I don't think anybody truly thought that Shawn Michaels was retiring. I think even back then with the real, it still didn't feel real like the NWO did, if that makes sense. Like there was still some sort of pageantry to it. That there was something going on that we were still getting worked. But nevertheless, I don't think anybody seriously considered that with that quote, seriously consider that being what was going on.
Okay. Do you think that this is on the level of, if let's pretend for a minute that this was just because he didn't want to do business? Is this on the same level as Austin taking his ball and going home?
I would honestly, and you're probably going to laugh at this, I would compare it more to Bret Hart not wanting to lose the title in Canada to Shawn Michaels at Survivor Series later this year.
I'm glad you said that because Bret Hart actually cuts promos later on making fun of this and kind of joking on it. Is that fair?
Absolutely. I mean, listen, if the reason Shawn Michaels relinquished the title because he didn't want to work and lose the title to Hart. Because imagine this, like we've gotten rematches in multiple WrestleManias. We got Hogan and Rock 3 times, Rock and Cena 3 times. We've got plenty of rematches at WrestleMania. If they were building up to do sort of a 3, again, considering the idea that Bret Hart is around in 1998, which he wouldn't be. Imagine if they were building up to doing a trios, like a 3-part series between Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart, and Shawn Michaels was going to lose the title to Bret Hart at WrestleMania 1997. So he wins it from Bret in 96, loses it in 97, and then we get the rubber match at WrestleMania in 1998. If it's the case that the real reason why Shawn Michaels left had more to do with the fact that he didn't want to drop it to Bret Hart than it had to do with the fact that he needed to get his head and his health right, then Bret Hart had his every right to talk about him the same way that DX took a giant dump on Bret Hart when he left the company after the Montreal screw job.
I agree with you, by the way. I agree with you. I just like to hear your perspective because and correct. And the biggest, they've talked about this too later on during Shawn Michaels' return. He does a moonsault off the turnbuckle and lands on his feet. He said the reason that he did this is just to rub it in the face of people who were saying that his knee wasn't really injured. Part of me does believe that he was just bitter and did not want to drop the belt to Brett. The belt to
Yeah.
Brett. I will also say that a lot of it had to do with a lot of his drug use and his mental health at the time.
Yeah, good call out from Volley Polly once again. He miraculously didn't need surgery on his knee
Let's move
after
on.
this.
Let's move on here. We've talked a lot about losing his smile, and I want to get to something a little bit more, I guess, sunny, if that's what we're talking about. We're going to get to February 16th, the next pay-per-view, In Your House, Final Four. In Your House Final Four was told that because they put the four top guys at the time right now in a four corners elimination match for the vacant WWF champion. We're going to get to a couple matches here. Rocky Maivita defeating Hunter Hearst Helmsley for the WWF, the WWF Intercontinental Champion. So Rocky Maivita retains his belt. I want to talk a little bit what's going on here. We're kind of skipping over, and I don't mean to. British Bulldog and Owen Hart are not really on the same page. Owen Hart is your two-time Slammy winner, British Bulldog and him, WWF Tag Team Champions, and they're not on the same page. They're doing a lot of fighting back and forth, miscommunications, and they actually lose to Doug Furness and Phil LaFawn, who was the tag team, I think, Can-Am Express, and they actually defeat British Bulldog and Owen Hart for the tag team champions at Final Four. I think that's very unexpected. Do you remember anything about these guys, Doug Furness and Phil LaFawn?
They had to have lost the titles next night on Raw, right? There's no way they held the titles more than a day.
Why do you say that? That's not fair.
I've watched WWF during this time period. I've never heard of those two guys in my life.
What is because you never heard of them? Does it? They're Hall of Famers.
What are their did they lose to the Godwins? Is that what their names are? Like what? Like who are these guys? Like
No,
what are their work names?
They're just really good.
I swear to God, PJ. Who are the guys that
What's the matter?
Owen and the Bulldog.
I just said Can-Am Express. It's Doug Furness and Phil LaFawn. Legends in the business.
I've never heard of these guys in my life. I'm searching. Move forward because this is wild. All right, move forward here with the story.
All right, we'll move forward here. Basically, we're gonna get to the main event here, where it's Bret Hart taking on Vader, The Undertaker, and Stone Cold Steve Austin again in the Four Corners match. The match goes 24 minutes. It's a great match, and Bret Hart wins, lastly defeating The Undertaker, and now he's your vacant WWF champion. So we go from Michaels vacating the belt because he loses his smile to Bret Hart, now your world heavyweight champ, your WWF champion, after the vacant. Does that make sense? Does this make sense to you? Is Bret Hart the next guy?
I mean, is he the next guy? Like, is he the next guy to? Is the next guy in line?
Okay, let me rephrase. Should he have won that?
Tyler was not amused by me not knowing who the Can-Am Express were.
Oh my God, it's a Can-Am Express, bro.
All right, nevertheless. All right, so when you say is he the next guy, like what is that?
Should he have won that Fatal 4-Way match? You mentioned that Vader should have got a title match. Austin was red hot. Taker hasn't had a belt since when he defeated Hogan, I believe. So why is Bret Hart the next guy to win that Fatal 4-Way match?
Listen, knowing what I know about what happens in '97, like knowing what happens soon after Bret Hart wins this title at In Your House Final Four, I don't know if he was the right guy. I wouldn't want them to put the title on a guy like Vader in a one-off just to give him the title, like they did Kane. Kane won the title in a first blood match and then lost the title the next day. I don't think it would have been fair to a guy like Vader to put the title on him for him to lose it the next day, a week later, whatever the case is. But if they're gonna listen, I don't want to spoil it here and get ahead of ourselves, but Psycho Sid would win the world title and then defend against The Undertaker at WrestleMania. So why not just go ahead and put the title on Sid here? That's what doesn't make sense to me. Instead of just padding the stats for Bret Hart and giving him another title run, just go ahead and put the title on Sid and let's move forward without any gaga just to pad the stats.
Sid wasn't in the Fatal 4-Way.
So it was Vader, Austin, Taker, and
Yeah, and Bret Hart.
and Hart.
Yeah.
See, that's dumb. I mean,
Sid, last thing Sid did was lose. Well, lost, obviously. But well, hold on now, because you're going to get there. If you just let me get to the next night on Raw.
yeah. All right, let's go. Next night on Raw.
Because
Let's hear it.
Because the next night on Raw, Psycho Sid defeats Bret Hart to win the WWF World Heavyweight Champion.
I know. Like, why not just put him in the 4-way and let him win
Because
that?
because I don't know. I can't answer that, but I know what happens. Sid defeats Bret Hart.
I mean, listen, if you're watching this live and you agree or disagree with me, please let me know in the comments. Like, legitimately, like
they wanted more heat for Stone Cold to come out and interfere in the match. Stone Cold,
why not make Stone Cold be the one to cost him the title? Like, let's take her out of the final.
He did cost him the title.
Yeah, but the night of the fight, the final four. Why not just take him out of the match? Let's say take Taker out of the match, and Austin cost Bret Hart the title that night, and Psycho Sid wins the title that night. Like, why do you need?
You don't even want to fatal.
No, like not Taker in the final four.
No, so you don't want to fight a fatal four at all. You just wanted Hart and Psycho Sid, and then Stone Cold could be the pay-per-view.
No, I wanted the final. Give me the fatal four-way.
Oh, okay.
Instead of Undertaker, you put in Psycho Sid.
Oh, okay.
Bret Hart's got the sharpshooter on Psycho Sid. Austin doesn't care about winning the title. Just comes and attacks Bret Hart, just beats him up, walks away. Psycho Sid powerbomb, takes the pin 1, 2, 3. Psycho Sid's your new champion.
Yeah, but the thing is, Psycho Sid couldn't be at that pay-per-view because he had softball. He could only be at the next night at Raw.
Why? What was the real reason?
Your face. You went through every single emotion. You were like, yeah.
I was confused. I was confused. I was angry. I was.
No, I don't know why they did it. It's a lot of gaga. I totally agree with you. Sid in the 4-way wasn't best for business, apparently. I mean, I guess not. It was only best for business the very next night, not even 24 hours later.
What's really funny is that you actually had Tyler going. That's softball. That's great. That's good stuff.
Can I just? I mean, you can't see it because my chicken scratch, but I wrote that. I wrote that, like, I guess he wasn't
at a softball game, yeah.
Let's move on here. We're having fun, but we're about to get into a big topic here, and guys, we're running low on time, but I really don't want to skip any of this. We're really going to get into something hot here. February 24th, the ECW invasion in the Manhattan Center. Man, to me, besides maybe in 95 when we got New Japan or WCW really coming clashing, this was the first forbidden door for me, because this is when I start seeing, whoa, who are these ECW guys? And Vince has said before, back in the day, that he doesn't know why he did this. He doesn't know why he gave these guys a platform, but everyone made a little bit of money and so on and so forth. A lot of it had to do, according to the Rise and Fall of the ECW DVD, a lot of it had to do was when Flash Funk came to WWF. Vince wanted to use that music,
otherwise known as Too Cold Scorpio.
Thank you. Yeah, but when he was Too Cold Scorpio, they wanted to use that music. Well, Heyman owned that music or something, or they had a deal where music was owned with ECW or something weird like that, and Vince wanted to use it. So they let him use it if Heyman got a little bit of a of some TV time. That was gist of the Rise and Fall ECW DVD. I remember being very enthralled by that because I didn't understand it. But let's talk a little bit about how this leads up. In 96, at the pay-per-view Mind Games, which if you don't know what In Your House Mind Games is, it's got one of the best Shawn Michaels matches between him and Mankind. Fantastic match. But something else happens there, and it's the ECW is sitting ringside at Mind Games. They even get mentioned, and they get escorted out of the building. Later on in September 96, Sandman pours a beer all over Savio Vega. So we're really getting the early moments of the ECW invasion.
You're setting the foundation for it.
Thank you. Yeah. It's at that time that Jerry Lawler starts coining extremely crappy wrestling, which, I mean, that's how you get heat. I love it.
It didn't go over well with Taz.
Can I ask you, is ECW extremely crappy wrestling?
Some of it was. Some of it was. Sandman couldn't wrestle a wet paper bag.
That's my lie. I've literally said that.
He couldn't wrestle his way out of a wet paper bag. You've got. I mean, listen.
Do you remember? Do you remember when we did the Barely Legal pay-per-view and we were trying so hard to be like, well, this was good. This part, you know,
Listen,
you know what?
A company that puts out guys like Chris Jericho, Rey Mysterio, Juventud Guerrera, Dean Malenko. You've got guys like Dreamer, who was a good performer. Taz was a great wrestler. Bam Bam Bigelow would show. There were plenty. Chris Benoit. There were plenty of good wrestlers, really good wrestlers in ECW. But then you had guys like Balls Mahoney, Big Daddy Dudley.
I don't want to hear your talk on Balls Mahoney. I love Balls.
I bet that's what she said.
Well, you got guys like Sabu. That man, he's good for that one thing, man. Like, I agree with you.
Spike Dudley's going to take a huge spot somewhere on an ECW show.
Is Spike Dudley ECW's Darby Allin?
Yes. That's a great way to describe him. That's fantastic.
I know. That's good.
Listen, he's no Mikey Whipwreck. All right, let's continue.
Listen to you. Listen to you. I don't want to hear it. All right, on February 24th, we get the first ECW invasion with the Eliminators coming in and doing. They do this horrible spot, and I can't remember their finishing move now that I'm thinking about it, but they do their spot on a random ring attendant. And it's weird to me because the Eliminators are a great tag team. Why not have them just come in and do it on someone who matters? You just had a weird match in with the Godwins. Why not come in and beat the hell out of them instead of just some ring attendant? I thought that was weird.
I don't know. For those who don't know who the Eliminators are, they're the tag team of Perry Saturn and John Cronus.
I guess I should have mentioned that. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Listen, I don't know. I kind of wanted to touch on the idea that you said, like, this is the first sort of forbidden door. Listen, there was a WCW New Japan Cup, New Japan Cup, so to speak, at Starrcade 95, right? Yeah. But that was sort of like organized. This didn't feel organized.
Correct. That's
what made this the real, like, an actual. It felt like somebody wasn't supposed to be there was there. And that's what made this feel forbidden.
We're going to get slightly off topic, but the feeling, rewatching this, I had the same feeling. And you know what I'm going to hit you with? G1 Supercard with Enzo and Cass. I had the same feeling with that. Because part of that roster didn't know that was happening.
Absolutely. That was the biggest thing. Like, New Japan was so angry that they wouldn't air it.
And I remember Tama Tonga had a lot to say about it. He was like, what are we doing? Like, he was like, where the hell's security? What are we doing? And then he got smartened up. He was like, oh, well, why not say something? So I think anyway, that's what I think.
That's how it felt though. Yeah.
It did.
Like the Razor Ramon, like Scott Hall showing up on Nitro. Nobody expected it to happen.
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah.
Paul Heyman comes out and starts he starts announcing ECW matches. The first one we get is Full-Blooded Italians Little Guido taking on Big Stevie Cool. How great of a wrestler is Stevie Richards?
He may be I'll give you one of the top 10 to 20 most underrated wrestlers of all time.
I completely agree with you. He is a talent. He's a sports entertainer. He's hilarious, and he can work. And he had a great body at this time, too. I mean, he looked the part.
The idea that you watched it on an ECW documentary where Stevie Richards, he didn't know what got over, so he was making fun of something every week. He was parodying something every week until the Blue World Order got over.
Yeah.
And between Stevie Richards, Blue Meanie, I can't remember the guy that showed up. He looked more like Macho Man, but he played the guitar on the belt like Hogan. But the BWO got over.
It did.
So
absolutely.
and it wouldn't have gotten over without a guy like Stevie Richards at the helm.
Well, someone else who got over that you just mentioned was Taz, who defeats Mikey Whipwreck in a pretty much a squash match. But that's the time where we get Sabu jumping off the giant R, taking out Taz's cronies there. God, how great did that look, though? Looking back at that, though, that was really fun. It was a little sloppy because you got old man Sabu up on a giant R, and those things aren't meant to do that. But
the R wasn't stationary. The R wasn't secure.
It wasn't. I thought it was so fun, though.
Oh, well, listen,
Um,
it's a great spot. If the R had been properly secured, that's like Sting jumping off the stage in AEW.
yeah.
Granted, it's different. They're two different guys, but yeah, had Sabu not almost died, that spot would have looked even better.
I want to also mention that we get some great tension and pretty much a shoot between Jerry Lawler and Paul Heyman, who Paul Heyman's at ringside at commentary. And I love this quote: "Boy, has this show sucked without ECW or what?" And Law, and Lawler just goes nuts on him. And Vince is trying his best. He's actually sounds like he's trying to keep the peace. Anyway, moving on, the last ECW match that we have on there is Tommy Dreamer taking on Devon Dudley. You know what it turns into. Tommy Dreamer defeats Devon Dudley, and then we get a big brawl. We also get Heyman coming in there, challenging Jerry Lawler to come to an ECW event. We're going to get into that into part 2. But before we move on and before we end this thing, I want to talk a little bit more about the Raws leading up to WrestleMania 13. That's right, folks. The first thing that we're going to cover in part 2 of 97 is WrestleMania 13, one of my favorites. So we're going to go to March 3rd, 1997. British Bulldog is going to defeat Owen Hart to become the very first European champion. You also get Hart and Hearst Helmsley defeating Bret Hart via DQ. The Rock defeats Vader via DQ. And Psycho Sid defeats Mankind. Is this the year of, if we don't know how to finish a match, let's just put it in a DQ? Because Nitro did this all the time with the NWO as well. Is it lazy booking, or does it actually mean something?
I mean, listen, at the time, they probably just sort of relied on it. Like it was, well, they're doing it over there. We'll do it over here and it'll work. Like there was a while in WWE recently where people were winning in just schoolboys to the point where Xavier Woods, his finisher was a small package. I forgot what he calls it, but it got to the point where he leaned into it, and so he started winning matches with a small package. So I don't want to call it lazy, but it's definitely it was definitely a sign of the times, if you will.
Yes, Lord. Well, we are going to talk about the Go Home edition. Excuse me. We're going to talk about the Go Home edition of WrestleMania 13 next week. But I want to give you guys just a little bit of the match card here. Psycho Sid and Bret Hart in a steel cage. British Bulldog taking on Vader. I don't want to mention this, but it's going to have to be mentioned. It was my profile picture for a while. Mini Goldust and Masquerita Sagrada Jr. taking on Mini Mankind and Mini Vader. Man, when I said 97 was a great year for wrestling, did I mention the little people matches? Because I don't think I did.
I wish I had more to say. I mean,
oh brother. Anyway,
it was very infamous. It was very infamous that Vince was doing anything he could to sort of get over, and little people wrestling was definitely one of them.
I know a lot of those matches were very much in short supply. We're gonna move on to.
I'll tell you what, you're trying to get us canceled tonight, PJ.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, that was a good joke.
I watched Shrek the other day. That's what there are those who think little of him. Anyway, that's Shrek. I didn't quote it.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Relax,
relax. You did quote it. That was a direct quote.
I mean, I quoted it, but
you didn't
I didn't write it.
You didn't write it.
I'm not the DreamWorks guy. We're going to talk about March 17th. The next time we do this series, that's the Go Home edition between or before WrestleMania 13. I don't know how many times I can say that, but guys, we're really heating up in 97. We're getting soon. We're going to get Taker's first, or not first, but his my favorite title run, really, of The Undertaker. We're going to get Austin and Bret Hart really cranking up. And I want to talk a little bit about this rivalry. Is there another rivalry that comes to your mind that's such a clash of styles more than Stone Cold and Bret Hart? I mean, because what a clash of styles. You have a technical wizard versus just a brawling brute. And one could argue there's a lot of rivalries that has that dynamic, but do they even touch this one?
I'm not sure, only because it wasn't like one guy was a lot bigger than the other, right? Like it wasn't like Stone Cold was 7'4" and Bret Hart was 5'8". I think you're looking at
their styles could not be any more different, right?
I mean, I think if you look, I'm not sure if it was ever a rivalry, but you've got Rey Mysterio having a series of matches or a program with the Great Khali and Big Show. You've
Yeah,
got
but you could say that about anything. You could say that about Kevin Nash or Rey Mysterio. You could say that about Wardlow and Darby Allin. I mean, I'm saying, do any of those rivalries or any rivalry with that type of clash touch this rivalry? That's my point.
well, Tyler likes to say Stone Cold and The Rock.
The answer.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought about that one too, but The Rock. I mean, to me he was more of a brawler as well. Not as much as Stone Cold, but he would throw on a sharpshooter, and that, oh God, that's technical. But yeah, I wouldn't see him as a technical wrestler. I would see him as more of a brawler as well. But I agree.
I think the point is Stone Cold is more of like a working man, like a blue collar champion, and The Rock would eventually become
He's
like
a man,
champion.
such a man.
Yeah, listen, I don't know.
He's a
like
real man's man.
It's hard to really compare anybody to Bret Hart and Stone Cold because it seemed like the rivalry went on forever.
Mm-hmm.
But in all honesty, I mean, it did, but it didn't. Like we went from really, 96 to even 98. I mean, because obviously, Bret Hart was out of WWE, come November of 97. So, and you'd see Stone Cold go into a program going into 98 with Shawn Michaels. Yeah, I don't know. I wish I had a better answer for you. I really don't. It's a good conversation to have. We could probably talk more about it next week too.
One conversation that I'm ready to have with you right after we take our next commercial break is finally we're going to talk about the G1 Climax, and that is what I look forward to every single year. Curtin Brock is a great example. I agree with you on that one, Tyler. I don't know if it quite touches that, but if there's anyone that comes close, it's probably that. That's a really good thought.
Tyler coming in hot, but we got to come in hot with our next sponsor before we get into this week's curtain call. And that sponsor is none other than One Stop Repairs. Established in 2008, One Stop Repairs in North Charleston, South Carolina, is your one-stop shop for all your electronic repair needs. Specializing in cell phones, tablets, computers, laptops, and game consoles, One Stop Repairs offers reputable and quality service with the quickest turnaround time and the most competitive prices in the Low Country. You can find them on Google with an exceptional 4.9 star rating or on Facebook by searching for One Stop Repairs. Call for a quote today at 843-343-6310. That's the number One Stop Repairs. Man, I've been all over it with these reads tonight, man.
Been killing it.
I should be doing commercials for a living. And I've got the face for radio. That's why there's nobody's tuning into the video podcast because they don't want to see this ugly mug. We have reached this week's curtain call. If you recall, in previous episodes, we've done curtain calls where we do countdowns, top 5 countdowns of something wrestling related. Well, there is currently a tournament taking place in New Japan Pro Wrestling called the G1 Climax. And for the foreseeable future, until this tournament is over with, our curtain call is going to be PJ's update on the G1 Classic. And so we're going to get PJ's update on what happened in the opening weekend of the G1 Climax. So without further ado, take it away, PJ.
All right, I'm really excited about this. I want to name off the competitors first. Now, I'm going to rush this a little bit because we're running high on time. But there's always time to talk about New Japan Pro Wrestling. Of course, your IWGP Heavyweight Champion Sonata is in it. Chase Owens, Kaito from Pro Wrestling Noah, famously the one who tried to shoot on Okada and paid the price. Rin Narita, who is the son of Strong Style, great talent out of the Young Lions. Shota Umino, another Young Lion. Yoda, oh God, I can never pronounce his last name. I always screw it up. Suji, maybe? I think so. Another Young Lion who had a phenomenal match at Dominion with Sonata. Hikuleu, Gabe Kidd, another Young Lion. Kazuchika Okada, Yoshihashi, Taichi, Tangaloa, Kenta, Great Khan, Will Ospreay, your boy, El Phantasmo, David Finlay, who is now your leader of the Bullet Club, and your never open weight champion. Evil, Mikey Nicholas, part of TMDK. Eddie Kingston, Ryan's favorite wrestler. Tamatonga, Shingo Takagi, Aaron Hinare, Tomoro Ishii, Hiroki Goto, Zack Sabre Jr., Shane Hayes, the other part of Team DK, Jeff Cobb, Hiroshi Tanahashi, Tetsuya Naito, Toru Yano, and Alex Coughlin. A who's who of the G1 right there. A lot of new guys coming in, which is always super fun to see. And I got to tell you, I love seeing new folks enter in the G1. Let's go to night one real quick. I'm going to name off the matches, then I'll name off their points. So night one was on July 15th. I was up at 3 a.m. watching this. Yoshihashi defeated El Fantasmo. Chase Owens defeated Gabriel Kidd. Tangaloa defeated Kenta. That was a fantastic match. Rin Narita and Shota Umino actually go to a draw. Each match gets 20 minutes, by the way. If I did not mention that, they go to a draw, which is always interesting. Excuse me. Kazuchika Okada defeated Great-O-Khan. Great match. Kaito defeated Yoda God, you'll never get it. Yoda
Try not to rush it, man. Just try not to rush it. Take your time.
Yeah, I will. Tachi defeating Will Ospreay. Big upset there. Great match. Sonata defeating Hikuleo. Great match indeed. Next on night two, we had obviously Ryan's favorite wrestler, and this is a great match too, man. They beat the hell out of each other, super fun. Eddie Kingston taking on Shingo Takagi, great match. Tomohiro Ishii taking on David Finlay, and Eddie Kingston actually went over on Shingo Takagi, by the way, skipping ahead there. David Finlay defeated Tomohiro Ishii. Hiroki Goto defeated Toru Yano. Micah Nichols defeated Aaron Hirane. Shane Hayes defeated Alex Coughlin. Zack Sabre Jr. defeated Hiroshi Tanahashi. Didn't expect that. Evil defeated, this was horrible. Evil defeated Tama Tonga, and Jeff Cobb defeated Tetsuya Naito. Also did not expect that. We're going to go through the points here, and then I'll go through who I think will be the top four. What?
Wow, the Naito losing to Jeff Cobb.
Yeah, I know. It's ridiculous, but that's all right.
I love it. I love Jeff Cobb.
Are they standing right now? So I love Jeff Cobb, but anyway, 2 points for a win, 1 point for a draw, and then obviously 0 points if you lose. So Sonata has 2 points. Chase Owens with 2 points. Kaito with 2 points. Rin Narita with 1 point, along with Shota Umino 1 point. Yoda Tsuchu with 0 points. Hikuleo 0 points, and Gabriel Kidd with 0 points. That's Block A. Block B, Okada 2 points. Yoshihashi with 2 points. Tashi with 2 points. Tangaloa with 2 points. Kenta with no points. Great-O-Khan 0. Will Ospreay 0, and El Fantasmo 0. That's your B block. C block right now, David Finlay 2, Evil 2, Micah Nichols 2, Eddie Kingston 2, baby. Tama Tonga 0, Shingo Takagi 0, Aaron Hirare 0, and Tomohiro Ishii 0. That's your C block, and then your D block is Hiroki Goto with 2, Zack Sabre Jr. with 2, Shane Hayes with 2, Jeff Cobb with 2, Tanahashi, Naito, Yano, and Coughlin with 0 points. So we're off at a good start. Actually, the G1 continues tomorrow at 3:30 in the morning, I believe, on my time. So I'll be watching that. To answer your question at the beginning of this show, my final four are, in my opinion, it's going to be Eddie Kingston. Yeah, Eddie Kingston. Tetsuya Naito, who has 0 points right now. Will Ospreay, who has 0 points right now. And I think it's going to be Tama Tonga. I think he's going to go to the end. And I think the winner of the G1 will be Tama Tonga. I think he's going to take it. And I want them to strap the rocket on that dude because he's so good. But I don't know if they'll really do it. I think Naito is really the favorite to win. He's my second to win. But right now, those are my picks for G1. And I'm sure you have a lot to say about it.
Eddie Kingston does not belong in that same category with any of the other three guys you mentioned. I love Toru Yano. I would love to see him instead of Eddie Kingston out of that group.
Oh my God! Listen to you, Toru Yano.
Yes. I think he's more entertaining than Eddie Kingston. I know. I maybe yeah, it is a shame. It's a shame that Eddie Kingston is so bad. It is a shame.
It's a shame that Eddie Kingston has 2 points and Yano has 0.
Yeah, that's again. You didn't you say Naito was going to go on, and he doesn't have any points right now either. So
That's
pump
true. It could happen, but Yano, no,
pump
not
the
at all.
brakes, kid. No, I'm kidding.
This
Listen.
has been a lot of fun. I know we went long, and thank you guys for staying with us this long. But this was a lot of fun. I look forward to hearing our part 2 of WWF 1997. We'll start with WrestleMania 13, and we'll go all the way for a couple months. I think we're going to try to get to the summer at least, when things, ironically and no pun intended, start heating up.
Yeah, listen. A lot of stuff going on in the world of pro wrestling between the G1 Climax. There was an injury to Bailey at a house show over the weekend. That if you're listening or watching this podcast right now, you're probably not paying attention to Monday Night Raw. So maybe there was some sort of injury update. I'm not sure. You've got SummerSlam coming up. You've got AEW shows. Collision will be in my backyard in the beginning of August. A lot of stuff coming for all of the new golden age of professional wrestling. So a lot going on. Before we move on, before we close out, Chris Massey says, "Not gonna lie, evil is so bad." Um, so
Yeah, I'm an evil fan. I don't think that he should have been double champion at the time. I thought they were just trying something different. Yeah, nah, evil ain't the guy. Evil ain't the guy. I would like to hear his opinion on how he thinks Sonata is doing as the face of the company right now, as the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. But that can be for another time as well. I think Sonata's a great champion. He's one of my favorites in the business right now.
Well, real quick before we close out, a quick shout out to Desmond Johnson, the producer, the head of Tobacco Road Sports Radio, who came in and gave the show a like, along with Eddie Lopez and again Jason Yenny. If you're still watching live with us, make sure you go to one of those social media platforms, be it YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook. Leave us a comment or shoot us a message. Let us know what you want us to see us cover. We have done listener reviews, listener requests in the past, and we are not opposed to doing it again. So if there's something you want to see us talk about, feel free to reach out to our social media pages and let us know. But yeah, this has been fun. Like PJ said, we've got part 2 of PJ's Time Machine WWF 1997 edition coming up in the very near future. But like I said, there's a lot of stuff going on in wrestling that we can be talking about. So before we go, PJ, anything you want to talk about and let the fans know? I know you're still getting settled in New Mexico, but anything that you want to pitch, or anything you want to promote, or just talk about? Any final thoughts?
Final thoughts are the G1 is heating up, and I'm really excited to see more about it. Yeah, New Mexico is fantastic. It's hot, but it's not as hot as Charleston. And I love it here. This is definitely a heavy metal town too. I mean, like, we've got a lot of shows coming here that I just have to walk down the street to, which is fantastic. You don't get that in Charleston. So thank you guys very much for joining us, man. Thanks for hearing me talk about WWF 1997. I look forward to talking more about it. And please, in the comments, leave your favorite moments, highlights of WWF 97. Maybe this will get you to go back and take a look at some of those things. And, oh, man, I forgot that happened, and go back and take a look at it. That would make me very happy. But I really appreciate it, guys. Thanks a lot.
PJ, it's always a pleasure having you on the show. There is a lot that I kind of want to get to here before we close. First and foremost, if you're on Facebook, go check out our new wrestling page, The Wrestling Movement. It is head up by a couple of guys who know a little bit about wrestling, do a couple things with wrestling. Desmond Johnson being one of those guys. Also, Michael Davis, host of Out of Pocket with Michael Davis, as well as the Drop the Mic Wrestling podcast that you can go and find and listen to on YouTube, as well as Tobacco Road Sports Radio every week as part of their Wrestling Wednesday lineups. And then obviously Tap Outs and Touchdowns. We're going to be here early in the week in our wrestling episodes. We're starting football episodes back this week. Banker Bill and I are going to be doing our NFL predictions, our divisional predictions. I've already got my spreadsheet up, and I'm picking winners and losers of every game as we're doing the show. I've got my spreadsheet up on another window. So we'll be back with wrestling episodes. And then the Cat Cave over on the Keep Pounding Podcast Network, part of the Fans First Sports Network, where Michael Davis and I are hosting Talking Carolina Panthers every week. Also on Wednesdays, that you can find us on the Tobacco Road Sports Radio Network. So a lot of stuff going on for both PJ and myself. So make sure you go and check out all that all the things, if you will, all of the what's the word I'm looking for? All of the I can't think of the word I'm trying to, and the fact that we're live, pal, I can't go back and edit this. All the content, all the quality content coming from yours truly, as well as everybody over there on Tobacco Road Sports Radio. Listen, we went really long. We really appreciate everybody who tuned in to watch this show live. As long as the scheduling will allow, we're going to do more live shows. So if there's anything you want us to talk about on the live shows, feel free to reach out and let us know. Shout out. We got another Michelle Russell coming in and joining some of the show. But yeah, come on in and let us know what you want to hear us talk about, what you want to see us talking about. We're a show for the people. We're the people's show, if you will. So anything you want to see us talk about, we will be willing to do so. But I think we've held you long enough. We're going to let you go. So for PJ Steven, well, I say that. Shout out to Dan Grossi and Bill Tomer, who also came in to watch the end of the show. But once again, come back next week for some more wrestling content. Come back in a couple days for the return of the football shows here on Tap Outs and Touchdowns. For tonight's show, for PJ Steven, it's your guy, Bully Rye. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time right here on Tap Outs and Touchdowns.